This is Too Raw for TV. I took a little break from YouTube, but I'm back, and I want to talk about one of the greatest Yankees of all time, and in my opinion, the greatest closer to ever play the game, Mariano Rivera, who made news um, yesterday, late yesterday, when he became the first ever unanimous selection to go into Cooperstown. That's kind of shocking to hear because you think of all the great players that are in Cooperstown. But he's the first unanimous pick. Reading from an article from 538. The article is co-authored by Travis Salchik and Nathaniel Rackett. And I'll put a link to this article in the description box. The article goes on to say the only question about Mariano Rivera's candidacy for the Baseball Hall of Fame was whether he would be the first player voted in unanimously by the Baseball Writers Association of America, which served as the primary gatekeeper for entry to the Hall. On Tuesday, the great New York Yankees pitcher became the first player to appear on 100% of writers' ballots, with all 425 voters finally agreeing on something, that Rivera should be enshrined in Cooperstown, New York. With his ballot sweep, the fearsome closer did something unmatched by even the greatest of his starting pitcher brethren, which include Nolan Ryan, Greg Maddux, Tom Seaver, and Randy Johnson, all of whom topped 97%. 3 years ago, King Griffey Jr. came the closest to complete consensus when he received 99.32% of the vote, just 3 ballots short. Rivera, eligible for the first time this year, was joined by 3 other inductees. The late Roy Halladay, who I think died in a plane crash. I think it might have been last year or the year before last. He appeared on 85.4% of ballots. Longtime Seattle designated hitter Edgar Martinez at 85.4%. Roy Halladay, if I remember correctly, reading, while many people believe that his prime was Hall of Fame worthy, some people wondered whether or not his prime was long enough. He didn't become a starting pitcher until he was 25 years old, and injuries started taking a toll on Halladay by his mid-30s. So he didn't have the longest tenure by baseball standards, but I guess enough people voting thought that he did enough. He had 203 wins, which translated into, in today's baseball may not be that much historically, but I mean, I guess they feel like he did enough. Edgar Martinez, this was his last year of eligibility, and he gets in. He had been edging up closer and closer into going over the 75% threshold, and he did it this year. And the other individual to get into the Hall of Fame this year is former Oriole and Yankees pitcher Mike Mussina, who just edged out at 76.7%. Based on ballots that had been made public before the announcement, we were expecting that Rivera, Halladay, and Martinez would gain entry to the Hall. As of our last model run, we thought Mussina was just a borderline case. But he got in. And I'm looking at the balloting now. Um, you know, Sammy Sosa doesn't have a shot. It's really weird to see a guy with 609 career home runs and he doesn't have a shot because of steroids. Gary Sheffield, I don't think he's going to get in. 509 career home runs, had a fine career. I think he had a World Series ring in 97. You would think he would be able to get in. Um, Maybe ultimately, Sheffield to me is not like a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of those guys that will eventually get in. He's like a lower tier potential Hall of Fame guy. I think he'll get in eventually, but maybe in the next 5 years or so. I don't know. I don't think Todd Helton's getting in. Um, Manny Ramirez, I'm not sure. There have been allegations about him. I don't know if he'll ever get in. You see Fred McGriff, 493 career home runs, if I remember correctly. He was always seen as one of the better players, but I can't ever say whether or not there was a real stretch where he was the best player at his position in baseball, and that kind of hurts him. He's right at 40%. I don't think Larry Walker's going to ever get in. He might. I don't know. Now, Kurt Schilling is interesting. I know Donald Trump said last year, infamously or famously, depending on how you look at Trump, that he thought that Kurt Schilling should get in. And I'll say this. One thing I'll agree with the fake president is this. The fake president had a point. Um, I do think that Kurt Schilling had some of his best performances in high pressure situations or in games that mattered. You know what I mean? He was, I guess, what you would call a clutch performer. We all remember that performance that he had in a very important postseason game with the bloody sock and whatnot. Um, he's, he's worthy of it, and but he seemed like he's flatlining. He's what, 61%. So Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. Steroids, the usage of steroids or the perceived usage of steroids are really ruining. These guys should have been in. Okay, matter of fact, if you take out just the years where they're accused of steroids usage, even if you take those years out, what they did before that is Hall of Fame worthy. Um, I think last ballot, Bonds was at 56%, and Roger Clemens was at 57%. This time, Bonds is at 59%. Clemens is about 60%. I think these guys will eventually get in, but the Hall of Fame is making these guys pay, which I can't really disagree with, but you got to have these guys in the Hall of Fame. Like, these two guys, these two individuals, Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, were the best players, arguably. Roger Clemens was probably the best. This is just my opinion. I think Roger Clemens was the best pitcher in baseball, starting pitcher from the late 80s until the mid 90s, more or less. I think he was the best pitcher in baseball. Barry Bonds was the best baseball player, period, in Major League Baseball in the 1990s. Griffey Jr. was phenomenal, but all around, Barry Bonds, when he was smaller, he could hit for power. He was fast. Did everything. He was a good fielder. He was mobile. He could steal bases. He could do everything. But let's go back to the article for a second. They're talking about. I was actually wrong about Schilling. Last year he was at 51%. This year is at 60%. 61%. So seeing that, he'll probably get in eventually. Um, Goes on top of what I was saying. Meanwhile, Bonds and Clemens, whose careers were tainted by allegations of performance-enhancing drug use, could only inch up on a crowded field. Um, their glacial rate of improvement means that they'll be hard-pressed to hit the required 75% in their 3 remaining years on the ballot. You got to get these guys in, man. You got to get these guys in. If you're going to put in Larry Walker, um, they're talking about how Larry Walker's jumped. You got to put these guys in, man. Um, but anyway, going back to Mariano Rivera, I think he had over 650 career saves. It's an all-time Major League record. And pretty much when he came into a game, with very, very few exceptions, if the Yankees had a lead, it was all she wrote, especially in the postseason. This guy was incredible. And he was a big contributor to all of the World Series that the Yankees won in the mid to late '90s, and the one that they won in what was it, 2009, and he was a big contributor. I'm trying to remember all the ones they won. I know they won in '96. They won in '98. I think they won in '99. I think they won in 2000. I have to think about that one. I think they did win 3 in a row. And of course, they won in 2009. But congrats to Mariano Rivera, man. Tell me what you guys think.